Getting these sessions on time. Welcome to the PEIA Listening Tour Task Force. Our goal here this evening is to hear from you about your concerns regarding PEIA, as well as what you contemplate as a fix or the creation of a solution as we would view it from the participants' role. So my name is Mitch Carmichael. I have the privilege of being the Senate President, and it's an honor and a privilege to be with you this evening. I'm going to pass the microphone to my fellow participants on the panel, and we look forward again from hearing from you tonight. We'll be very respectful to one another and listen to what we have to say. Take your suggestions, your ideas, your thoughts, your concerns back to the entire task force. We are 29 strong task force, of which about 8 or 9 of us have been devoted to the listening outreach, community outreach aspect of this. So we're trying to find solutions. We're very interested in what you believe is a fix, and look forward to working with you to move forward in crafting the best healthcare plan that relieves any stress that you may have about it and ensures long-term viability of the program. Because I like to say this at the outset. We're in West Virginia. This is a national problem. Healthcare is a national issue. It's escalating in cost at every level. And we are here trying to fix this problem on a local, state level that provides you the assurances and so forth that you have a good insurance package as a participant. So that's the goal tonight, and look forward to hearing from you. And I'll pass the microphone.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Dr. Sherry Young. I'm a family physician by trade. Grew up in Wyoming County, so it's good to be very close to home. I'm here, my affiliations are, I'm Vice President of West Virginia State Medical Association and the President-elect of the West Virginia Academy of Family Physicians. I'm here for the medical perspective to kind of give some medical perspective as we move forward with the PEIA Task Force, but most of all, I'm here to listen. So, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Hi, I'm Sarita Beckett. I teach 6th grade at Independence Middle School here in Raleigh County, and I'm the voice of public employees on the task force.
My name is Perry Bryant, and I'm retired from a public interest group called West Virginians for Affordable Health Care.
Thank you. I'm Mick Bates. I'm a delegate for Beckley here in Raleigh County, and I'm one of the legislative members in the task force. I'm one of the 3 members of the House of Delegates that represent the interests of the House and the interests of the people in this process. So I'm not a member of the Outreach Committee. I'm a member of the Cost and Revenue Committee, but I want to be here tonight to hear what everyone had to say. Thank you.
All right, we'll get started tonight. You can come up front and speak at either microphone. Is there a certain way you'd like them to turn so you can... You're good? Okay. All right, our first speaker will be Wendy Peters.
Put something here so I can see from it. Hi, my name is Wendy Peters. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Daniels Elementary, and I am the co-president of the Raleigh County Education Association. I want to thank you all for being here this evening and for giving me the opportunity to speak. Sarita is a dear friend of mine, so I know that you all have been working very hard, and I just want to let you all know, first of all, that I appreciate you all volunteering your time on this task force. I think we can all agree on what the problem is. You know, PEIA needs fixed. For the past several years, I've attended the PEIA hearings, voiced my concerns to the board about the problems and concerns that my colleagues and I face with PEIA. We've heard from the PEIA board that it's up to the legislature to fix this. Then we hear from members of the legislature that there's not really anything that they can do because the PEIA board has to do something, and the legislature's hands are tied. Well, as you all know, a few months ago, those colleagues of mine and a few thousand of our friends got a little bit upset about continually voicing those concerns and nothing happening. I'm very thankful that the governor's decided to create this task force, and I'm truly hopeful that some solutions will be created. So we know what the problem is. I want to talk about the solutions. You know, we can talk and argue all day about deductibles, co-pays, premiums, pharmaceuticals. You know, we can talk about what's fair and for who, but it doesn't change the fact that we need money. We have to have revenue to fix this problem. And I do actually have a few suggestions for generating that revenue. It's been reported to me that of the PEIA funds that are invested in the stock market, that only around 7% of that revenue is kept in PEIA. That the rest of that money goes into the rainy day fund. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. I wanted to ask, and I figured you would know, so I appreciate that. Because I was going to say that wouldn't be very prudent at all if that were the case. So I'm glad to know that was one question that I had. And I was going to make a suggestion that not happen, but if it's not true, then good. So, and I know that you all have been lots of places, and probably just about everywhere you've been, you've heard about the gas severance tax. Well, I agree, that is definitely a source of revenue that we need to look at. And I've heard the argument, well, if we raise that tax, then they'll go to other states. Well, the thing is, guys, because that's the, you know, the only place it is right here in West Virginia. They can't get West Virginia natural gas from somewhere else. You know, the natural gas tax, I looked it up to make sure I was right, because I knew it had been a few years back, but in Alaska, it's 35%. And you know, I don't see people there deciding that they want to quit drilling in Alaska because it's a 35% tax, you know. I've also heard that, well, the surrounding states, we can't compete with them because they don't have those taxes. Well, I was looking into that too, and because I had heard that Pennsylvania didn't have a tax on gas. Well, I found out they actually do, but they don't call it a tax, they call it an impact fee. So my feeling is if people, you know, they hear the word tax and they groan, they don't want taxes, well, that's fine, then let's call it a fee and use that money to fix PEIA. And guys, the one thing that I know for sure is this, though. We cannot let the wealth that is underneath our feet escape and go out of state like our coal wealth has. You know, the people who live here, they need to be the ones to get the benefits from our natural resources. We don't want any more robber barons in this state. If you come here and you take our resources, then our children and our grandchildren will be taken care of, that our working families who work in this state will be taken care of. I mean, I think it should be as simple as that. Now, I said earlier that a severance tax was only one source of revenue that I was thinking of. I truly believe that we do have to look at multiple sources. I mean, I think it's imperative, for one thing, that West Virginia diversify our economy. I think that has to happen. You know, look at what happened to coal. I mean, we could blame Obama, Hillary, the market, whoever or whatever. We've got to quit asking, well, why does this happen? Who are we going to blame? And we need to ask ourselves, how are we going to turn our state around? What are we going to do to diversify our economy so that our entire state doesn't have to depend on one industry to take care of all of its people? I have a few ideas. We could turn West Virginia into a hub for science and technology. Do you all know there's a NASA center right here in Beckley? Students in our school system here in Raleigh County and many other school systems around the state have been investing in STEAM and STEM technology. Our kids are doing robotics, they're learning coding skills, and these are the jobs of the future. We're preparing our kids for those jobs right now. And I think West Virginia could invest in high tech and make our state a center for those types of jobs. I mean, we're training that workforce now. We just have to bring those investors in. We also need to look at agriculture as a source of income from our state. Cannabis in particular, I feel like. Other states are getting way ahead of us in that regard. I think we have the perfect conditions to grow it here. And if you look at the research, I really don't think it would only generate revenue, but it would help with our opioid epidemic that we have that plagues our state. And the last thing I want to talk about is absentee landowners. You know, the largest landowners of West Virginia land, they don't live here. And I've heard different percentages throughout the years, and I know that changes, but from what I understand, it's somewhere around 70%. You think about that, and the thing about it is those people they don't pay the same percentage of taxes that you and I do. I don't think that's fair. I really think that our state really needs to look at our excess acreage tax. You know, that could definitely be a revenue source. Again, I seriously doubt that these people are like, wow, I have this huge logging industry here. They're going to tax us a little bit more, let's leave. You know, I think that, again, that's not going to happen. But those are just a few thoughts that I have that I think would help us move forward. I hope you all will consider some of my ideas. I believe that this task force really does consist of some of the best and brightest people in the state. And I believe that you all sincerely care about moving us forward. I think what happens is the problem is that we all don't see eye to eye on how to move the state forward, you know. But I just ask that you all can listen and discern solutions with an open mind and truly work in a bipartisan effort to help West Virginia and her people. Because we may come from all different walks of life, but at the end of the day, we're all West Virginians. So I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to seeing what you all accomplish in the weeks and months ahead. And I'm hopeful that we'll see results from your all's hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Our next speaker will be John Quessenberry.
Thank you all for being here and for taking up this daunting task. Some of the concerns I would like to share that I've heard from other people. The first two don't really affect me, but they affect countless others. One is retirees. I've been told that retirees, the premiums are 60-40 instead of 80-20. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay. I've been told conflicting things on that. Yes.
Retirees are actually, their premiums are actually based on years of experience rather than a percentage of their premiums. So if somebody has 25 years of experience when they retire, they get a greater subsidy than somebody at 15 years.
Okay, the part I'm talking about is when the legislature allocates money for each 80% that is put in by the legislature, 20% by current employees.
The legislature doesn't appropriate money for the retirees. It's paid for by retirees and then it's subsidized by the active employees.
Okay.
No, the 80-20 does not apply.
So they are not under that at all?
No.
Okay. If you could, as you're doing your work, if you could try to find out what the figures are, how theirs relate to what current employees, because the fear I've heard from many retirees is that when they're at their most vulnerable and need to use that the most, that may be the time where they're receiving the least payment. The other group I have a concern with, and this isn't from the legislature, this was from the PEIA board about 3 years ago. They passed a new policy that anyone hired after that time when they retired, there would no longer be a subsidy when they retired for PEIA.
It's actually a statute.
So it is the legislature. Okay. That is something that I think we definitely need to address. At that time, I did the calculations, and it would eat up about 40% of a retiree's, an average retiree's salary each month just on their health insurance. So those new people, when they retire, I don't see any way they're going to be able to afford to live and to take care of themselves. I know a lot of this comes down to funding. Some of the ways I think that we could help some of our retirees, one would be if we would go back and allow them to purchase PEIA coverage when retired for unused sick days, like previous employees could. You used to be able to, for each 2 days that you had accumulated of sick days, if you didn't use that for retirement experience, you could purchase a month's single coverage, or for 3 days, a month's family coverage. I think if we could offer that, that would be something that we could do to help them be able to afford their health care coverage. If you could encourage the legislature to increase the homestead exemption for retirees, that would put more money into their pockets to pay for health care costs. That's another option. Some of the other problems that I've heard mentioned as far as equity or fairness is in the plan that several people have told me it would be better if premiums are based on either a single plan, a couple plan, or a family plan. So you take into account how many people are covered, not just family or single, in case you have couples that don't have children. Another thing is people living in border counties. I realize we want to keep people in state, and we often have better deals here, but if they're in a border county where something is not available, like in, I know here in our area, McDowell County has one hospital, Longman County has none, but if you're on a border county and it's not available, if we can't pay the same rate, maybe we could have a third rate. This is the percent that's covered in state, this is the percent out of state, and in between is a compromise version if that's not available in state, or if you are on a border county and it's closer for you to go across state lines. Some of the things that Senator Carmichael said are beyond our control. Affordable Care Act, it did great covering 200,000 more West Virginians, but it didn't really address the cost, which is the big thing. I would like to see the task force and the legislature and any groups that you're affiliated with to try to write letters to lobby our Congress to remove the ban on shipping FDA-approved drugs from Canada that are cheaper into the United States. So Americans have that same, I mean, if we're about free trade, that seems like a great place to start where it's going to benefit people right here. And then the big thing is funding. I agree with the severance, and the absentee landowners is something that has bothered me since I first heard about it in college back in the late 80s, that upwards of 60% or more of our land is actually owned by people who are not here. A few years ago, we had the Futures Fund, I believe, that was created, and then we kind of tied the hands what could actually be done. Wendy mentioned 35% severance tax in Alaska. I'm not saying we need 35%, but if you look, Alaska frequently gives tax rebates to their citizens, so they must be doing pretty well with taking that, and that money is invested back into the people. If our absentee landowners, whatever we need to change in the law or the Constitution, if their property is assessed like people that live here, not only will that generate money, but it might encourage them to develop some of these properties to create jobs, which is what we really need, or to either sell that to people who will create these jobs. So I think those are the two big ones. Now, if you want to look at a tax on pot or at cigarettes or alcohol, whatever, you know, I don't want to pay a whole bunch. I say pop, I don't say soda. Yes. No, I didn't say popped. P-O-P. Enunciation, yes. Communication prevents chaos. Yes. Okay. But those are some of the ways that I think we could address the problems with the funding. And lastly, I'd like to address something related to healthcare, and that's the substance abuse problem, the opioid problem. I would love to see our 3 medical schools involved with communities to try to have some rural healthcare clinics available, or drug treatment facilities. I know Wyoming County, the governor's just approved, I know it was over $1 million, for a drug recovery program to start in that county here. And they're going through, WVU is involved with that. I think that's a huge untapped resource, like the previous speaker was talking about, that we could use to help. And I do not know if PEIA does this or not. So I would like for you guys to check. But one of the pharmaceutical companies that created one of the powerful opioids, when they first found out, people, that you could crush it and snort it and it became an addiction problem, that company actually made a tamper-resistant version. It was more gummy inside, where it couldn't be crushed and snorted, which was great. But when the patent ran out and it became generic, the generic companies made the previous form, which could be crushed and snorted. And I found out from someone who had worked with the DEA in Maryland that Medicaid will approve the generic one that can be crushed and snorted, but not the tamper-resistant one. I don't know what PEIA does, but if you could look into that, because that'd be horrible for us to basically subsidize someone getting addicted to drugs. There was one other thing with the opioid, and I can't remember it right now. But I appreciate you guys coming here, and I would like to ask that you're not the PEIA board. You are a task force representing everyone in the state. I would ask for you guys to be the advocates for all the workers of the state. Like was mentioned earlier, we have a wealth of natural resources and land that should be used to enrich the lives of the people who have chosen to stay here and live here and make their lives here and fight for the betterment of our state. And you guys are in a unique position, coming from labor, from government, from business, from insurance, from medical fields, all of you working together to advocate for what is good for our state. And speaking as one of the ones who's one of the workers, I would like to ask to consider having the legislature put back representatives on the PEIA board itself that represent the workers, the state workers, and also especially the retirees. I'm so glad that retirees were put on this, because that's a group that so often has no say or so directly impacted by this.
Thank you so much, Brian. Our next speaker is William Harmon.
I hope you can hear me. I've had a stroke on my right side, and it's kind of awkward sometimes. I am a retardee. I want to talk to you about retardees. You know, I worked for the state of West Virginia 19 and a half years, and I worked with all kinds of people. I've met all kinds of people. All the people in this state that work for the state of West Virginia, they want the best thing for West Virginia. They want West Virginia to succeed. And for when they retire, for you to treat them like they don't count no more, that's not right. It's not fair. And I'll tell you, they do. They treat us, when they raised our PEIA this time, I went up to $81 this year. And the retirees, they never done like, I guess the teachers, they didn't raise theirs, but they raised ours. So the retirees, I'm going to tell you my story here so you can understand what I'm talking about. I worked for the Department of Highway 19 and a half years. Was injured on the job in 1996. After my injury off from work for a while, I went back to work, tried to do my job. In January of 1997, it was determined I was unable to perform my job. Workers' comp. I was on workers' comp from 1997 to 1999. And I'm going to tell you, that was an experience too. You ought to go that route for a while. I had to fight them to get everything I got while I was off on workers' comp. In 1999, I was disabled, and they paid me disability retirement, $907 monthly. After using up my sick leave to pay for insurance, I drew between $717 and $700 monthly until June of 2007. where I got disabled on the job, they told me it was the same as me having 99 years. Because I was disabled, wasn't able to work no more, so whenever I fill out my workers' papers, I always put down 99, because that's what they told me to put. But if they give you more for more, they give you more for more years, I haven't saw it yet. While I was working, insurance was given in place of raises. We were told, we know your salaries are low, but your benefits are good. That's what they used to tell us all the time. Trading my pension check for insurance is not the benefits I was promised. I went too far, I need to read some more here yet. The winter of 1994, Senate Resolution 8 recognized DOH employees for exceptional job performance that year. I was also recognized for Employee of the Month in the county of McDowell in August of that year. In recognition of these honors, I was given letters. I appreciated these recognition, but letters don't do much for you, I'll tell you. I appreciated it. I really felt good about it. In 2007, the drip started in my retirement. By 2012, I was receiving $653 monthly. On my 65th birthday, I lost 200 disability dollars monthly. So I lost $200 when I turned 65. And that probably needs to be looked into, because I wasn't even eligible for the full amount of Social Security until I was 66. These laws were passed back years ago. They need to look into these laws and update them. By the time we get the drip for that year, I was getting $447 monthly. From 2012 to 2018, the drips had me now getting $313 a month. After reading an article in the Charleston Gazette, PEIA proposed premium increases. PEIA needed to close about a $50 million shortfall in 2018 and 19. Since we are talking about the $50 million shortfall, would like to talk. I would like to reason with you about the shortfall in my retirement fund. They have a shortfall every year and try to balance on the backs of the employees and the retirees. And they do every year. They're short, and they got to cut in their pay more and more. Well, we earned this money when we was working. How come they're cutting us and cutting us? They need to find some money somewhere else. I've always had respect for older people. Didn't mind a bit paying Social Security because it gave the older folks something to live on. We are supposed to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now I'm back to the part about trading my pension check for insurance. It's not the benefits I was promised. The West Virginia legislature, when they want a raise, they vote themselves one. They have taken our insurance and put it under the decision of the PEIA board, so they don't have to answer to the people. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but Yester Caperson, he was the governor. He was an insurance man, and he's the one that got all this to where you guys didn't pass laws for us and take care of us. They gave it to the PEIA board. Now they're taking care of it, so you don't have to answer to us no more. What this PEIA board will do after they take many of the retirees' pensions, these are benefits that we work for. The people on this board, on PEIA board, will retire someday too. You might consider this might happen to them also. It's in this article, there was, under that plan, insurees who are not within acceptable range of basic health measures. Now, they didn't talk about none of this stuff when we worked and when we was making a living and helping and doing our job at the state. They didn't talk about none of this. But now we're retired. Now they want to talk about for basic health measures such as blood pressure, blood sugar, and total cholesterol will have to pay a penalty deductible. According to my doctor, you receive some of these medical problems because of DNA. I guess insurance will be finding us because of who we got our DNA from. There was also talk of point system, gift cards, and other benefits. I do not pretend that I understand all of this. I hate to think that it's coming to the point of food or medicine. All I'm asking now is to be took into consideration when it comes to me having something left in my pension here. According to the news, they said we have received more taxes than expected here in West Virginia. Some talk of new corporations coming to the area. China, natural gas. When will the state of West Virginia keep its promises to the workers and retirees? My hope is for a pension raise. I mean, it'd be nice to have a pension raise. I've never had a pension raise in 20 years. And I don't know, I think they have one raise that I can remember, and that was for people over 70. They wouldn't be so quick to see. If the state of West Virginia treated its employees and retirees fairly, they wouldn't be so quick to leave the state for better wages and retirement. You know, I'm a volunteer chaplain at the prison, and I do addiction, 12-step addiction classes, Christian classes. And I talk to those guards over there all the time, and they tell me they don't want to stay. They come and they get their training, and then they're gone. They go someplace else. They go to another state. Because West Virginia ain't taking care of its employees, and they ain't taking the teachers. They get their training, they leave, and they go to another state. This is if the state of West Virginia would wake up a little bit and start taking care of their employees. Because we're West Virginians, and we lived here all of our life, and we want West Virginia to do good. And I'll tell you what, the legislature's up there right now. They're about missing it. I'm telling you, if they would take care of the state employees and do the right thing, they'd get elected again for 15 more years. I'm telling you. But all I'm asking for me and other retirees, take care of us a little bit. We're older folks. More doctor's bills now, more everything. And every time I turn around, they want more money, more money. Before that, because of my wages, I was paying $5 for office call. This year, they raised mine $81, and now I have to pay $20 office call. They done me in this year, I'll tell you that right now. God bless y'all. I hope you will.
William. Our next speaker is Letta Berry.
Okay guys, I'm Lita Berry. I'm from Nicholas County. I went to the Braxton County meeting. I met our center girl there. This is my thing. Okay, does PEI have doctors that are on staff to make these critically ill, life-threatening decisions? Who makes all the decisions? PEI. First off, delegate was in Braxton County, Bob's, yeah. He had twin grandsons that were born. They were twins. PEI denied their shots to develop their lungs. Who makes those calls? We don't think about that, but that's a big critical. Is it Tom, Dick, and Harry that's hired off the street? You know what I'm saying? Are they filling a position? We need to know. We want medical people on there to make the life-threatening decisions. I have a friend in Morgantown right now. She's been off work 2 weeks because PEI denies her treatment. She has ovarian cancer. She just found out. They're denying her treatment. Why? There's treatment out there. Is it going to be too much money? It's not for PEI to say it's going to be too much money. They need to go ahead and try to save lives. And whoever come up with a healthy tomorrow, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Anyway, I go to the doctor, I get my little yearly physical, my A1C is perfect. My cholesterol is perfect. My blood pressure is the best it's ever been in 20 years. But then guess what? My waist ain't 35. You know what? If we can pass 3 or 4 of those, then we should have a deduction. Can't base our life on everything that's on that. That just drives me insane. And all these skinny people, they may not be a lot. But anyway, for real, listen to me. The skinny people, chances are they have an eating disorder. How is that healthy? Is that not being serious? Why is that is not healthy to have an eating disorder. So why are we penalized? I'm just being honest. People, they say, really, you're going to say that? Well, why not? That's part of our generation. They think they go curves and they'll just stay skinny, but how healthy is that? Okay, in May to October last year, I had a friend, like I went and did my research with all my friends. She had a sickness. She had to go see a specialist every week in Charleston. From Somersville, $40, boom, 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 every time she went. Then she had gas. Then she had to eat then while she's down there, because she wasn't diabetic. How can we afford this stuff? I mean, it's crazy. I just think that the daggone co-pays and all that, they need to go somewhere. I don't care where. You know, our insurance, it needs to be fully funded. It is not a contract. So we went on strike for PEIA, did we not? Yes. I know there's teachers and service personnel here. We spent days in Charleston. In my opinion, we should still be there. Yes. We are waiting on the good faith of the task force, whoever, to get this job done, because it needs to be funded. Okay, we can tax anything we want to, but who's going to pay for it? We are. You can tax liquor, you can tax cigarettes, you can tax pop, as he said. But who's going to pay for that? Then why not pay for insurance? It's got to be a compromise between this is a necessity. If it's a necessity, then don't tax it. If it's a luxury that you can buy, then tax it. And of course, the severance gas tax. that leaves our state not be taxed to benefit our insurance. I guarantee Pennsylvania's not going to let gas run into West Virginia without taxing the crap out of it. Is that not true? If they tax anything in this state, I feel like we're paying for our own insurance anyway. So I don't think the tax is going to be like on food, on pop, that that's going to make our state any better. It shouldn't be that way. Money needs to fund PEIA every year, not just whenever they get a word, oh yeah, we need some money in that fund. We have insurance every year, it needs to be funded every year. We don't let it linger for years to where our deficit is so high that they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because that's what happened. Something needs to be earmarked, just with PEIA stamp on it, and that money goes in the PEIA fund to fund it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Letta. Our next speaker is Terry White.
First of all, I want to apologize because I'm a horrible public speaker, but there are things that need to be said, both about retirees and also about the medical profession. I've gotten 2 calls from friends in the last 2 weeks whose doctors are closing their practice and moving out of state because they haven't had PEIA increases in their fees that they can charge, and they can't make it here. And so that's bad. We shouldn't have to deal with losing our medical facilities because there's no increases for them too. As a retiree, I'm a member of the WVEA Executive Board for Retired People, and that's why I'm speaking tonight. We've been told that there are about 900 West Virginia retirees that only get $500 a month. I don't know how anybody lives on $500 a month. But when you have insurance increases and premium increases and copay increases, what do you do about food and rent and utilities? That's got to be fixed with this task force. It's got to be. We also realize that not all retirees have the same state pension. So while tiers of increases are not good for working people, for retiree people, it should be based on their pay when they retired and have a different tier for each retirement level. Because a $500 employee can't do the same as a $1,000 employee. And I think that the insurance should also benefit that. The tax on the gas is the way to fix that. We were in Wheeling over Christmas, and I saw more Oklahoma cars in Wheeling than I saw in Oklahoma last summer when I was there. The money for this is not coming to West Virginians. It's going out of state, and they should. What the legislature doesn't fund, Marcellus Shell will. We lost all our coal severance. We've let the robber barons take it and run with it. Same with our lumber. Now we're going to give them the gas and still be the poorest people on earth. I taught school for 36 years, and I retired, and my retirement check, I'm not getting a cost of living raise on, yet everything else is going up. And every year, you all, PEIA is asking us to pay more and more and more. We shouldn't have to do that. There should be something about the retirees that if they're not getting a cost of living, their insurance should stay the same. It shouldn't increase every year if they're getting nothing to increase it with. And with what the teachers are getting raised. We weren't included in that. And we had no hope of getting that cost of living raise. Although CORP, which is a group of United retirees in West Virginia, we all are asking for a cost of living raise. And again, the Marcellus Shell is the way that gets done. So the legislature needs to get on the stick with that, and they need to help fix PEIA. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sarisa Pettit. I'm not sure if I said that correctly.
You did, thank you. I have a little different take on this whole issue probably than anybody else. Everybody is coming up here and giving wonderful speeches on how the legislature can move in the right direction to help fund PEIA. And that's what needs to happen, and I'm with you 100%. We are 55 strong. Don't forget that. I'm more about accountability and the accountability of our legislatures. While I was in Charleston this past February, March, I was privy to some information. A few legislators had this nice little party after a long day of looking at the 55 strong to the tune of $1,800 on a business card from the state of West Virginia. You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. My question is, or I have several on accountability. What is the proposed funding that has been considered from PEIA? What is the, or the legislatures? What is the proposed funding?
Let me just speak to that just a moment. And we frequently say we want a dedicated funding stream for PEIA, and yet at one of these events that I was at with Dale Lee, president of WEA, said that's the last thing you want.
That's just not.
Well, it's I'll show you the recording on it because, and here's his reasoning, and he's right, is a dedicated funding stream, for instance, natural gas severance tax. If you want to tie your insurance benefit to a roller coaster ride of gas severance taxes, in my view, that would be the wrong way to go. You should, I believe we're much better off to have a general revenue allocation that comes out of the budget every year, regardless of whether gas prices are high or low, coal severance taxes are high or low, and therefore you're guaranteed that funding stream. That was his point as the WVEA representative. You may share that view, I don't know, but I certainly do share that view.
Well, I am in agreement that it needs to be diversified, but there does need to be some money that is set aside from a diversified account, different accounts. It doesn't have to be one account, to where money can come flowing through to be in that as revenue for PEIA. Part of the reason I'm a registered nurse, and I have been a registered nurse for 39 years, and I stopped nursing and went to teaching 15 years ago, and I've been teaching now for 15 years. Now, I took a huge pay cut to do this, okay? I love those children. Those kids are awesome, and they are our future, and they are my reward in a whole lot of instances. However, I can't take that warm, fuzzy feeling home and put food on my table. Now, in the other part of the reason that I agreed to take this job, to teach this to students, is because I understood that the benefit package was a nice package. I was willing to take that cut, and I'm okay with that. But now, since I have been in this for 15 years and had little to no raises, if you look at the cost of inflation, what minuscule raise that you all have provided has actually backed me up. And my money, my buying power today, as opposed to 15 years ago, what I've got today doesn't buy as much as what I had 15 years ago, even though I might have a few more extra dollars in my pocket, or it appears that way, that it doesn't buy as much. But yet my insurance has gone up continually. My co-pays have gone up continually. And what you'll pay out has been lessened drastically. And I even had a bill come in, not once, not twice, but 3 times from a provider for a mammogram, and the provider wasn't getting paid, and finally we figured out that, okay, we've had this 3-way call with PEIA, and they said, okay, you need to rebill it again, you billed it with the wrong number, and now after the 3rd billing, and 11 months later, PEIA denied paying them, and mammograms are at 100% coverage. They denied paying them because it had been too long. Too long. They didn't pay the bill. Now, I need to go back to that provider for another mammogram. How do you think I feel about that? Because it's not right that he didn't get paid. I don't have the money to pay because I'm paying insurance premiums. And I shouldn't have to pay it. Just an example. So is the funding source a viable means for an extended period of time? So I haven't yet heard what a funding source is. So I'm not sure that it can be viable, but that is my question, and maybe that's not something you can answer today, but certainly there should be some form of communication to be able to answer these questions later down the road. Tiers, I have a question about tiering of plans. How different are the types of plans going to be? How are they going to be reclassified? Is it going to be by income? Do you have any idea on that? And then my last question, and I know you don't have the answer to that tonight either, but I want you to know that these are things that people are talking about. And these are things that are of interest to us, I hope. And I've got one more thing and I'll shut up. What are the deadline dates? And are you on track to meet and complete these tasks at hand? You know, because when I have a bill that's due, it's got a due date. And when I have an assignment due at work, you know, for my students, it has a due date. And my boss, my principal, when he has things for me to turn in, it has a due date. So I'm asking for a due date. When is the due date for this?
The task force is about halfway through our public hearings. They're scheduled to be completed in, I think, mid-June, June 11th. And then we'll come back to the entire task force. There's 3 components of it. There's the outreach, where we listen from you.
Mm-hmm.
There's the rate structure component of it, and then there's the plan design. And you know, you're asking me, are we on track? It's my understanding we are absolutely on track.
Okay, so I mean, like, is there a projected date that this should be all completed?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely scheduled to be completed prior to the legislative session, so that you'll have plenty of time to review and analyze the proposals.
So are we talking January?
No, well, I think December entrance, yeah. And you can understand, like, a lot of the things that we're hearing tonight, for instance, you know, we've heard, you know, a COLA for retirees, no increases, there was one lady spoke of no co-pays or no deductibles, and so some of those things, all those things cost money. So when you say, you know, find a funding source, we need to know what is that number, and it's a big number. I mean, it's climbing and climbing. So when we incorporate these things, we need to analyze how much this is going to cost and develop a plan. You know? So that's what we're in the process of doing.
And I want to let you know that I'm in total agreement with retirees. They need to be taken care of. That, you know, they've worked hard and they were before us, and, you know, I'm no spring chicken. I'm ready to retire myself not too long from now. And my whole retirement plan hinges on health care. And I understand that's a nationwide thing. I'm a registered nurse. I've been in it, know it, understand it. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Just so you know, the other 2 committees have both met. The cost and plan and revenue and funding have both met recently. There have been some articles in the newspaper and that sort of thing, kind of let you know what's going on track. And there's also, we have a website, there's Twitter, there's a Facebook, you know, that you can get in there and see what's going on. So just so you know, those things are available, and you can also go on there and comment. So if you don't get to comment tonight, You can go on those places and comment as well. And if you didn't sign up to speak, but you decide you want to speak, you can do so. We want everybody to have an opportunity to speak tonight. All right, here we go. Our next speaker is Ellen Ingalls.
I too am a registered nurse, and I'd like to talk a little bit about educating ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. We can't depend on PEIA to look out for us. Health Smart is a for-profit insurance company. If you go online and look at their mission statement is to make a profit for their shareholders. Not look out for you. They don't care about you. As long as their shareholders are making money, they're happy. Yeah. And if our children are our future, West Virginia's in a shithole. Our kids don't want to stay here if they know what's good for them. My son went to WVU Tech and got a degree as a chemical engineer. No jobs in West Virginia. So he went back to school. He just graduated with a master's in biostatistics. No jobs in West Virginia. So, and that's the future of most of our students here. Our children are leaving the state. So there's not going to be anybody left in West Virginia to pay. The previous woman was talking about a mammogram. And you have to know your ICD-9 and 10 codes. If you don't know what those are, look it up. Get somebody who does know what these are. PEIA will pay 100% of colonoscopy if it's for a screening. Screening is for a diagnosis. If it's coded for a procedure, you have a $500 copay. If the doctor goes in for a screening and finds that you have polyps and removes them, then you have to pay a $500 copay for a procedure. You can change it from a screening to a procedure, but you can't change it from a procedure to a screening if he doesn't find anything. Figure that one out. You're under no obligation to buy your medication from PEIA. There are websites where you can save 90% on your medication, and one of those websites is GoodRx. If nobody's been there, you need to go check that website out. For instance, I'm a diabetic. PEIA forced diabetics to buy the most expensive glucometer on the market, $36. It was free to me, but that's the most expensive glucometer on the market. I can go to Walmart and get a glucometer for $9. They also forced, because that glucometer is the most expensive glucometer on the market, so are their test strips. 100 test strips cost $32. I can go to Walmart and buy Walmart brand 100 test strips for $18. Okay, and the copay, they force you to get 3 months worth of test strips. Whether I use 100 or 500 test strips, the copay is $50. So I have even though I only use 300, sometimes I use more because sometimes the meter's too hot, the meter's too cold, you don't get enough blood. So I have my doctor write me a prescription for 500 test strips. I pay the exact same copay whether I use 100 or 500 or 900. It's the same copay. It's not illegal to ask your doctor to write you a prescription for stronger medication and cut the pills in half. So go to your website, whichever one and choose. Different strengths cost different amounts. So if you can pay $5 for 100 milligrams or $5 for 200 milligrams, ask your doctor to write you a prescription for the 200 milligrams and cut it in half. It's not illegal. If your doctor won't write you a prescription, Shop around. You don't have to go to that doctor. Go find yourself a doctor who's willing to work with you. It's not illegal to go to Canada and purchase medication. You don't have to have a passport. You can go and for $60, you can go and get a paper that allows you to go into Canada. You have your doctor write you a prescription for a full year's worth of medication. Go to Canada, find a pharmacy, they will fill that prescription for a year's worth of medicine. It's not illegal. Bernie Sanders takes chemo patients over into Canada for treatment because it's cheaper. Yeah, Bernie. PEIA forced diabetics to change their insulin to Basilara, which is the most expensive, one of the more expensive insulins on the market. They also force us to use Novolog instead of Lantus, which is one of the most expensive. Talk to your endocrinologist. There are other cheaper types of insulin. There's, I have found insulin for $5 a vial or 5 pens. So that would be $15 for 3 months worth. My copay is $50 for 3 months worth. You have to do some research. Like I said, PEIA Health Smart is a for-profit for their shareholders. They're not for you. I'm a spouse of a public employee, and when we were first married, he'd come home and say, "Ooh, I got a 1% raise." Oh, my insurance just went up by 1%. And for as long as we've been married, for 36 years, every time he got a raise, I'd say, "Wait for it." 2% raise. Yeah, our insurance went up by 3%. He got a 1% raise. Yeah, our insurance went up by 1%. So we were never ahead. That's all I have to say.
Betty Andrews will be our next speaker.
Here comes the spouse. I'm Eddie Ingalls. I just retired recently from 39 years with the Department of Health and Human Resources. I spent 13 years in child support enforcement and 26 years in Medicaid and food stamps. In the mid-90s, I was in the income maintenance policy unit, writing the eligibility policy that workers use all across the state to determine somebody's eligibility for food stamps or Medicaid. I'm proud to say that in 1996, when the Welfare Reform Act passed, and the able-bodied adult without dependents could lose their food stamps after 3 months, I was the one who wrote the waivers from 1997 to 2002 that kept virtually the entire state waived from these punitive measures that would hurt decent people simply struggling to get by. In 1999, I was the lead eligibility policy writer for implementing the Child Health Insurance Program, CHIP. I traveled all across the state training eligibility workers and supervisors. There was a bit of confusion. There were 2 different ways to calculate a household's income to see if they would be eligible, their child would be eligible, and they just seemed to have a lot of trouble with this. So I went around the state and I said, look, there are 3 steps in processing a CHIP application. Make them eligible, make them eligible, make them eligible. It's just that simple. Reach out to every person you can, every child you can, and make them eligible. And that's what I did for 39 years, was devoting my work days to making sure that everybody in this state who needed help and who qualified got it. Because that's what a Christian nation would do. So, as what I've said, there are two things we have to attack here. The cost. You know, there are ways. She's finding ways, you know, that are cheaper than what PEIA Health Smart is doing. So the one thing the committee, the task force needs to do is find ways to look at every single thing, the drugs, the services, the equipment. Are we getting the best buy for the money? When the vendors come and say, hey, we'd like to work with PEIA, PEIA needs to say, how low can you go? You know, we need to fight. There are ways to bring down costs. We just have to be intelligent. We have to research so that we know what the best buys are, what the best values are. And of course, the other one is costs are still going to rise inevitably. And we've heard you know, enough said about the servants tax, the unoccupied land tax owned by people out of state. These are things we need. My own personal experience is in Mount Hope, a couple miles down the road on Hillside, my great-grandfather, Newman Ingalls lies buried, killed in 1917 in a coal mine rockfall, working in a little punch mine outside of Mount Hope. 1917, no Social Security, no Medicare, no miner's pension, no widow's pension. My great-grandmother and my grandfather and his siblings were left destitute. And so it went for, what, 100 years. A lot of you people know the labor history. My great-grandfather was a coal miner, my grandfather was a coal miner, my father was a UMWA coal miner. And it took all that time to struggle. Here we create all this wealth for a handful of people, and we're left with next to nothing. And that has to stop. And it can stop right now by on natural resources. There's no tax on timber. There's no servants tax. There should be, shouldn't there? I agree. So, two things. Fight to contain costs, and two, a certain politician said our state needs to learn to live within its means. Well, our means are way too low. We need to raise our means so that we're equal with other states in this nation, and we're not one of the poorest. And that's the best way to work within our means is to raise our means. So that's all I have. Thank you.
If I might, I appreciate your service to the state of West Virginia, in particular the CHIPS program. You know, it used to be that if you were on PEIA, you couldn't have your child on CHIP, and they've changed that, and so you now can. And we ought to encourage the parents to put their children on CHIP program. It's specifically designed for children. It covers things that PEIA doesn't cover, like oral health and other benefits. It's really designed for children. PEIA is really designed for adults. So if you have children or you know people on PEIA who have children, that urge them to go to CHIPS and not stay on PEIA. It's cheaper for them. It's actually cheaper for the state too.
Thank you, Perry. All right, our next speaker is Lisa Good.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Good. I'm a high school English teacher in Fayette County. First of all, I'm thankful that I have insurance. I wish it was insurance that made a little more sense. For example, I think we could save money by being proactive. If a doctor says I need a CT scan, then I think I need a CT scan, rather than end up in the hospital because the blood clot from the legs moved to the lungs and now I'm in the hospital for 5 days. So I think we could save money by allowing the doctors to make the decisions that they should be making in the first place. If the doctor says that my husband needs more insulin, and by the way, I have learned more from you than I have learned from any PEIA person or doctor. If a doctor says my husband needs more insulin, then I think he needs more insulin, particularly he had a stressful month. He's a special ed teacher. He goes to the pharmacy to get more insulin. PEI won't cover it. Why do you need more insulin? You just had it refilled 2 months ago. My daughter was like, well, you should have told him you tried to quit. You were trying to quit. You were trying to break the habit, but you just couldn't stop taking it. Our daughter, by the way, works at Virginia Tech, and when she needs to see a doctor, she walks downstairs to the team doctor, and there it is. So I'm fortunate enough that I teach in a school that has a clinic. Maybe that's one way to go. We allow our teachers to go to our school clinics and help them out that way. I don't know where the problem was. I feel like there's pharmacies who are abusing the system. I feel like there are doctors who are abusing the system. But I think that the insurance should not be able to override the doctor, and hopefully that there are greater relationships between the doctors and the pharmacies and PEIA and the medical board.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Tiga McGuffin.
Before I begin, thank you for letting me speak, and whoops, is that okay if I hold this? Okay. I just want to recognize Delegate Bates, you introduced yourself, President Carmichael, you introduced yourself. We also have Delegate Moy in the back. Thank you for coming. And we also have our Federal Commissioner too, Mr. Matt Winder. And I just want to recognize elected officials that have really been on our side and tried to help us with this fight. They deserve some recognition for being here, for caring enough to be here this evening. First off, I'm Tiga McGuffin. I'm a teacher at Oak Hill High School in Fayette County. I'm the president of AFT Fayette, and I'm a proud product of Fayette County Public Schools. I've been teaching 11 years. This is my 11th year I'm finishing up. And I guess the joke in my head and in my family is if I had $1 for every time I've come to a PEIA hearing, or had to go around and around on the phone with a PEIA representative, or dealt with PEIA in any sort of way, I wouldn't be here because I really wouldn't be worried about premium increases. I'd have enough money not to worry about it. But there are a few things I want to address tonight. My family is very fortunate in the fact that we're healthy right now. We're young. I have 2 sons. One is 8 months old. One is 6, about to turn 7. And we're healthy. We have the occasional ear infection. He has to go to the pediatrician. But for the most part, we do our wellness checks up. We're healthy. It wasn't always that way. My oldest son was born early. I developed preeclampsia in my pregnancy, and he was born early, 2 pounds, 5 ounces. So he was in the NICU for a month, and I was in the hospital for a couple weeks. And you can imagine the medical bills that mounted up from that. And because of his prematurity, he faced some health issues. One of them was he had some intestinal issues. And at the time, there was not a pediatric gastroenterologist in West Virginia. So we had to travel to Columbus, Nationwide Children's Hospital, for that service. So you can imagine the healthcare costs that were associated with that, as well as the gas, the lodging, and all of that. And you do it because you have to do it. If it came between my son and eating ramen noodles, I ate the ramen noodles. I mean, that's just, it's a sad choice, but that's the choice we had. I took a second job shortly after all of that. I taught alternative school in the evening, so I would leave my house at 6:30 a.m. and I work 10 minutes down the road, 5 minutes down the road. Leave my house at 6:30 a.m., get home at 7:15 p.m. And I jokingly say to my friends, I took that second job so I could pay Hayden off. And when I paid Hayden off, I was able to quit. But it's sad that I had to take time away from my child in those precious formative years just to pay those medical bills due to my, the low pay we receive and trying to pay those premiums. Now, like I said, we're healthy. We don't have prescriptions very often. I have friends that do, and I think one of their biggest concerns with the prescriptions, it's almost like Russian roulette. What's going to happen when I go to the pharmacy to pick them up? Are they going to be approved? Are they going to be denied? How much are they going to cost? Did they change from this month to that month? This 3 months to that 3 months? My issue, too, though, is also with the premiums. And I think what we need to look at here is the fact that we're in southern West Virginia. And unfortunately, we're not as prosperous as the northern part of the state. So when you're talking about tiering and combining incomes with a spouse or a family, and you're talking about losing another potential $200 to $300 a month, we can't take that kind of hit at all. Because that's going to make us choose between how much food we put in the pantry versus paying our insurance premiums. And that's going to make us choose, are we going to pay our power bill or our gas bill this month so we can make sure our kids are at the doctor. That's a huge hit. That's a huge hit for my family. I am seeing lots of heads nodding. I imagine that's a huge hit for, how many of you would that be a hit for your family? Absolutely. A hit that would be very difficult to recover from. I've heard a little bit about how we can fix public employees insurance, how we can fix PEI, and there's lots of things floating out there. I do want to say, number one, I am a strong supporter, as is every teacher in my building, of taxing the gas. Taxing the gas. And I would like to say, Delegate and Mr. President, that is not a political ideology issue in my building. And I know that I stood right beside my Republican friends that held tax the gas signs during the teacher strike. My independent friends and my Democrat friends. That is a common theme throughout everyone. I have a friend who's an accountant in Beckley. She said, they need to tax the gas, Tia. And I said, I know they do. The difference is, not only do we need to do it for PEIA, but we also just need to do it just to set some money back for our state. We are not with cash to the point where we have the luxury of saying to an out-of-state corporation, no, we don't need your money. We're not in that position. We need their money. They need what we have. We need what they have. I came from Oak Hill. I came on Route 19. Some of you may have come from Oak Hill. I see several Oak Hill faces. What'd you see in Bradley? Pipes. Pipes. Miles of pipes. They're not going to drag those pipes out of here. Pipes and pipes. Pipes and pipes. Right. So here's the deal. Tax the gas money and put it in the general revenue. I don't care as long as it's taking care of the PEI issue and the West Virginians that are here. All right? The difference, here are the two options. We tax the gas and get the money, or fee the gas and get the money, whatever word is more palatable. Or we don't tax the gas and get the money. Those are the two options there. Okay? It's not rocket science to me. And here's another thing. I've heard a lot about privatization of PEI, and if you don't mind, I'm sorry, how many of you are for privatization of PEI? Okay, there is a minority. Most are saying no. Here's my fear with that. Brick Street was privatized, and we talk about how much money that saved the state, but I also want to talk about something else. Now, I'm all for philanthropy and charitable organizations and donating. I donate a good chunk of my money when I can to the organizations I feel should have it. But Brick Street, I think, donated $1 million, $2 million, something in the ballpark of that to the soccer complex in Charleston, which is great for those kids. But then I got to thinking, where are they getting all that money from? And then I got to thinking, how many workers' comp claims, rightful workers' comp claims, were denied to fund a charitable organization like that? And then I'm thinking, could that happen with PEI? Could they take our benefits and lessen our benefits, jack up the premiums, and then donate it to a charitable cause for a tax write-off? I'm not sure what the issue is there. I am not for privatization. I know that for sure. I am not. And I think there are incentives that we can offer. Although I think the key there is incentives, not a punitive thing. Go 365, I don't think there would have been near the backlash had it been an incentive rather than a punitive measure. I wear a Fitbit. I'm proud of my Fitbit. I don't want Go 365 tapping into my Fitbit. I don't want to see how many steps I got that day. And by the way, I'm at 13,000. I don't want them seeing my sleep patterns on my Fitbit. It's not their business. So I think there are wellness programs you can do. I don't want the board to shy away from that suggestion. I just want to make sure that suggestion is in the form of an incentive rather than a punitive thing. Other than that, I mean, I think that we all know the issue here. And the elephant in the room, I feel, is the severance tax for gas. I feel like that's the elephant. I feel like people are really clamoring for that. And it's not just public employees. Like I said, my friend is an accountant in the private sector. You know, they want it. I have attorney friends who want it. I have a doctor, a friend who is a doctor who wants it. And I think really that what it boils down to is they want to take care of West Virginians. They want to take care of the people who, I think as John Questenberry so eloquently put it, choose to stay here and try to make a living, try to make a family, try to make a better state for everyone. with that, I think that is all. I appreciate you guys letting me talk. Thank you for coming here. For some of you, this is a drive. I understand that. If there is anything as far as public employees can do, we are all willing to work with you and help you and work for you. I mean, that's pretty obvious by the crowd here tonight. We just need the same help in return. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mark Montgomery.
I'm very humbled to get up here and speak. I don't think my resume is as good as a lot of these other speakers. But I'm a teacher here in Raleigh County, born and bred here, 33-year teacher. I teach West Virginia Studies. I show my kids a lot of visual things and things about West Virginia history, and they're 13 and 14, they're 8th graders, and we watch about the timber industry and the coal industry in West Virginia. A lot of people have spoken on that, and they are bright enough to ask me, why have we let all that stuff go out of our state and we didn't really benefit from it? So if they can figure that out, something that happened 100 years ago and it's still happening, I think we're kind of dropping the ball there. I'm a unoccupied, out-of-state landowner guy. The most recent study done was in 2011, and and really this is something that's hard to figure out. Our state really hasn't done a good job, and I would hope maybe that Senator Carmichael and the other delegates here could get the Secretary of State or somebody to get the county assessors to give us an exact amount of the acreage that is owned by out-of-state unoccupied landowners. I'm not talking about personal residents or individuals. I'm talking about companies. This study says it could be anywhere from 20 to 30%. So, and that's a lot. I've given all this to the members here tonight, and I hope they take a chance to look at it. If you turn over to Roman numeral 2, if you're a personal property owner in West Virginia, you can go and apply with the West Virginia Forestry Department for a timber management. You can say your land's timber management. That can reduce your property tax between 75 and 100%. They pay no taxes for 75%. Now, I don't know what timber management is, okay? I don't know what that consists of. I didn't really investigate it. But if it's timber management, I would say you got a lot of trees on your property. And that's great. I mean, I love West Virginia. We're one of the most forested states in America. But because of that, you don't have to pay any property tax. And I'm not saying we tax them, whatever, but I'm just saying these are sources of income for the state to put in the general fund and use as you see fit to fully fund the PEIA insurance as you do every year anyhow. Roman numeral 3, House Bill 4605 that was introduced this year would have increased taxes on unoccupied out-of-state landowners $4 an acre. That was estimated to bring in $20 to $30 million a year. That's right, $4. I mean, we're not talking a lot. That's not even close to what you and I pay per acre when we pay our taxes. And our state is one of the lowest in America in property taxes. All right? So here's 3 sources of income that I think with the push of the green button and the governor sign it, we can do it right now. It will not hurt one West Virginia citizen. Not one. And what's frustrating to me is we just seem like we beat our head against the wall. We're talking about the same stuff that went on with timber and coal and all that. You know, I grew up here. I grew up in a coal camp. Of course, when I drive down there now, it's depressing. But I also want to ask you why we cannot do a private-public plan and put hydroelectric on every dam we have in this state. Again, won't hurt any West Virginian, won't hurt any natural resources, and let Appalachian Power do it, and we get some of the profit. I mean, we just let water run through a dam, and I don't understand that. I don't understand why we do that. Ever since I've heard Bluestone Dam, yeah, they're gonna put hydroelectric power on that. Still not there. There's a source of income. I think we need to be diversified. There's been a lot of things mentioned. Obviously, I love to eat. Okay? It wouldn't bother me a bit if you put a penny on pop or candy, whatever. And some people might disagree with me, that's okay. I mean, because that's what we're here to. But I think our revenue income sources really we started to have problems. We took the food tax off. And I'm not saying jack it up sky high, but I'm just saying we need to be diversified a little bit. My papa owned a little store down on Route 3 in Coal River. And when he would watch me and there'd be nobody in the store, he would set me up on the counter and he'd open the cash register and we'd count money. But I can remember when he would sell something to somebody and it was like $4, whatever, he always said, and one for the governor, a penny for the governor. And he meant a penny for the state of West Virginia. I mean, we can talk about all these great things, but we have to have income, folks. I mean, we have to pay for them in one form or fashion. My other suggestion is that when a public employee retires, their insurance should be frozen. It should never go up again. And if that takes me having to pay more than a working tax employee, I mean, that's the way it should. And if we have to come with other, and my insurance goes up, I'm thankful for my insurance. I've been very fortunate. My parents were teachers, had issues, and it paid for it. I've looked out in the public sector what it would cost me to go out and get insurance. Okay? We've got good insurance. Can it be tweaked? Is there people have problems? I understand that. But we need to do something and quit talking about. I mean, here's somebody tell me what's wrong with this. Well, what's wrong with any of these ideas? Look at this. I mean, I don't see any.
There's nothing wrong with the timberland proposal. Absolutely not. What I will say is that money comes to the county. It's not state money. So
pass a law.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the counties can spend it. So I'm curious when you talk about county money. You're in
Raleigh County.
Does Raleigh County have an excess school levy?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Pass it every year.
Does
every
and so that's great. I mean, Jackson. I live in Jackson. We do as well. We just passed it 70-30. It does. I know some of the other counties are represented here. Did Fayette? I saw Fayette here. Do they have an excess levy? Wyoming. Yeah.
But I'm also
so you're contributing.
Yeah. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. This is a little off, but I want to tell you something else. We talk about money. We need to do something about superintendent of schools pay across this state. And again, I know that's county, but the superintendent of Berkeley County just got a pay raise to $192,000. Our governor makes $150,000. We have 10 superintendents in this state that make more than 31 governors across these United States. I mean, it's outrageous. The most a teacher can make here in our county is $62,700. That's with a doctorate degree in 35 years. Our superintendent makes $148,000, and good for him because his contract is negotiable. And I say get all you can get, but somewhere there has to be a cap on it. I mean, we have 2 superintendents that make more than 7 governors across. I mean, I wish you'd take a look at the pay in central offices, and it's just like it's out of control. But in closing, I do want to say this. Senator Carmichael was kind of like the poster child for hating teachers. Okay? And we've kind of become acquaintances a little bit. I was very fortunate. This man, every day we were in Charleston, would let groups of teachers and public employees in his office, and he would sit there and take every question. Now, I want to tell you what, I didn't always agree with him, but I'll think to myself, I don't know if I'd have done this. So I give him credit for that. He listens. you know, and all of our delegates that are here are great people. You know, I love West Virginia, and we need to come up with answers, okay? And I think everybody here tonight's presented you some of those. So let's diversify, let's get some money in here. We gotta have money for services. I mean, you have to have a balanced budget. And, you know, I appreciate your guys' work. And listen to that lady there in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is Melinda Willis.
Hey, everybody. I've spoke several times at the PEIA hearings, and I don't necessarily have all the fixes, but I'm a DMV employee, not a teacher. And I've been with the state since 2005, and I bring home $540 every 2 weeks. After taxes and insurance yearly, I make about $12,000 to $13,000 a year. I also have a special needs daughter, and we travel to UVA. And I'm really not sure how PEIA picks and chooses how they want to pay the bills, but I gave copies of those to Mick. Some bills, they'll pay at 100%, some bills they pay 60%. Funny thing about that is it's the exact same doctor. Same ENT that she's seen every time, or the PA that works for him. One time it's 100%, one time it's 60%, one time it's 40%. Sometimes they double pay him and pay the exact same bill twice. So I'm not sure who's regulating what's being paid where and who's accountable for those. I know I don't make enough money to live on. If I had to pay a house payment, I wouldn't be able to do so. If I had to pay more insurance, I wouldn't be able to do so. Right now, I pay my car payment and barely have enough gas money to get to work. So I can go to Walmart and get a cheap pair of shoes for my daughter, who sees Nick for physical therapy. And I did so a few weeks ago. Her therapist at school sent me a message, don't let her wear those anymore because she slips in them. But then you gotta go to somewhere else and pay $40 for a pair of shoes that she's gonna be able to wear because that's what she has to have. And paying more for PA does not let me buy her shoes or those clothes that she needs. Y'all mentioned CHIPS. CHIPS is great for a child that can be seen at doctors here in West Virginia that does not have special care that they need. She has a optometrist at UVA. She has a developmental specialist at UVA, pediatric ENT at UVA, genetics at UVA. And those are all there because most of those specialists are not available here in West Virginia. Plus, I can show her chart from my cell phone. All her doctors are connected and know her history. If I take her to a doctor here, I've taken her to the emergency room, and they look at me and say, well, she's happy. She looks fine. But she's always happy. She never looks sick, even if she is. She's your best friend, not your her. The more time you work for a company, you should at least make what you're hired at, or bring home that much. And whenever which I did start out in corrections and went to the DMV after I had my daughter, but I was bringing home about $37,000 a year compared to the $12,000 that I'm bringing home now after 13 years with the state. Plus I have a daughter, so that's more income that has to come out of that. We're 3 positions short at the Beckley office in the DMV right now. So then the public comes in and they see 2 or 3 windows open and they are mad at the world whenever they walk through the door, because we're definitely not anyone's favorite person to come see. But we can't fill those positions because it has to go through such a long process, 3 months before they decide to hire somebody. And you go to Walmart and start out $13 an hour, and after 13 years I make $10.32 an hour. So, and the only other question I had is, you said that you were on track for probably December or January deadline. Generally, the PEI plan for the next year comes out in October. when we have those meetings. So has the deadline changed to before the legislative session, or is that going to be for when the hearings for PEIA come out in October?
I'm not coordinating with the PEIA yet, but the rates have been frozen, so.
Well, the ones for the following year, though, usually are out by October, so.
One of the subcommittee meetings that Delegate Bates and I were in, it was in, Senator Blair recommended that we complete our work by September. And that way, the PEIA Finance Board could have our recommendations prior to making their plan. I thought that was an excellent idea. I don't know if we can make that, but speak for the two of us here, we're going to continue to push that, and hopefully we can get that time frame met.
All right, thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Larry Kudler.
I appreciate being able to speak here this evening. I appreciate your time and appreciate you listening. I have just one concern that I have thought about for some time, and I haven't heard too much about it. I've heard just a little snippet of it this evening, and I'm hoping that by just addressing it and you being able to hear what my concern is, that it might, as PEIA is trying to fix some of the issues that they're working on, that this will be looked at and it won't be overlooked. In the PEIA description, the summary description, on page 33 of the 2018 book, there's just a 2-sentence paragraph, and it reads concerning employees hired on or after July the 1st, 2010. And it reads like this: employees hired on and after July the 1st, 2010 will not receive any plan subsidy for their health insurance premiums at retirement. These employees may continue coverage in the plan at retirement, but must pay the unsubsidized premium for the coverage of their choice. So that small paragraph to me is a big deal, because ever since PEIA has been in existence, my mom, she was a cook for a lot of years, and she's retired now, and her premium is subsidized in retirement. Whether you retire before Medicare or whether you retire after Medicare, the premium is subsidized, and if it wasn't for that subsidy, she wouldn't have a retirement. When her and my dad was on the plan, by the time they took the insurance premium out, she only had $55 a month in retirement. And he's since passed away 3 months ago, so he's not on the plan now, and that has went up a little bit. But the subsidy is a big thing, and you know, being hired on or after July the 1st, 2010, it may not be affecting a lot of people now, but yet as time progresses, it's going to be affecting a lot of public employees significantly. And I called PEIA just to make sure and verify of what I was reading and that it was correct. And then I also asked them what the unsubsidized premiums would be. So they took me to the shopper's guide, which is very accessible to be able to find. And I have like 5 different examples, and I'll try to go through these real quickly so that we can understand what the unsubsidized premiums are for public employees if they retire before 65 or after the age of 65. So the unsubsidized premium on my first example is a non-Medicare retired policyholder on Plan A. If it's just them by themselves, they don't have any dependents, their monthly premium would be $1,160. And that is a non-Medicare retired policyholder. So if you decide you want to retire at 55, 60, before Medicare, your monthly premium will be $1,160 on your own. My second example is a non-Medicare retired policyholder with a non-Medicare dependent on Plan A. So if you are the policyholder and you retire before 65 and you have a dependent, a spouse that's under 65 not on Medicare, the unsubsidized premium that you'll be paying is $2,760 a month, which is a significant premium. Also, the third example I have is a non-Medicare retired policyholder with Medicare dependents. So if you, as a policyholder, are not on Medicare yet, but you have a dependent, a spouse that maybe is on Medicare, your premium will be $1,934. That's the unsubsidized premium. And I have two more examples, and I'll try to quickly go through these. And these are actually Medicare examples. So if you are hired on or after July the 1st, 2010, and you're a Medicare policy holder, you went ahead and you worked till 65, and you're on Medicare, and you're by yourself, just you, your unsubsidized premium will be $473 a month. If you're a Medicare policyholder with a Medicare dependent, you, your spouse are both 65 and over and you're on Medicare, your unsubsidized premium will be $974 a month. And as I looked at these, I mean, that's a real concern because that's not the way it has been. It's not the way it always was because, you know, PEIA always has been a great benefit. And, you know, I know that, you know, through the years, many public employees have foregone raises to keep the insurance great and attractive to where people would want to work just to have these benefits. And what concerns me is, you know, anyone that would seek a job to be hired, take a teacher, for instance, that has went to school, they have got their degree, they have the credentials, they seek a teaching job in West Virginia. And if they do their homework and the benefits are good as far as while they're working, but if they look down the road, which many times I look down the road and I look ahead and try to plan, and if they see that when they work, you know, 30 years, 35 years, they may want to retire before 65, and many sometimes do, and they see what their premium is going to be, they may decide, you know, I might need to go somewhere else and look for employment that has a better deal for me at retirement, because retirement, you know, that's, you know, a big thing, and that's what people are working toward as they do work. And so this is just a real concern to me, and I'm hoping that this can be somehow fixed, and it could be reversed back to where the premiums are subsidized like they once were, and like they once always have been. And that I know that that's something that's probably going to be another one of those that's going to cost a lot of money to do that. And I know that that's an issue, and I've heard a lot of things as far as trying to solve that issue as far as funding streams. I don't know what the answer is to that completely. I agree with some of the things that I've heard as far as trying to fund these things, but for the well-being of our state, to make our state attractive, to make and fix it to where our kids want to stay here and work here, and also, you know, to have really good people, you know, in these positions. You know, if you want the best, we have to provide the best. We want the best teachers, the best service personnel, the best government employees. You know, we need to do our best to provide them the best, and we will receive the best people, I think. But I'm just hoping that this one concern can be somehow fixed. and I do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Brian Bowman is our next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker will be Lee Hart.
Sorry I can't stand, but I can sit and talk. We're faced with a dilemma. The dilemma is whether we've got enough money to cover our PEIA premiums. That is every year is the same old scenario, and it's been going on for, I know, almost 40 years, because I've had to lobby. We lobbied for 16 years to get the retirement from 35 to 30 years. 16 years straight. In the 1990 strike, some of us were very fortunate. We got to go before the judge to find out why we went on strike. And when one of the board members, employees came down and gave me a summons that I had to go before the judge, I thought my wife was going to pass out. That's what happens when you stand up for what's right. Now, let me tell you what the definition of a radical is, according to people in Raleigh County, and I'm sure in other counties too. If you stand up for what's right and try to do what's right, you are classified as a complete radical. So, I'm a retired teacher, but I'm also a retired radical. But if you want to know the history of West Virginia, let me give you two publications. Who Owns West Virginia by Tom Miller. That was in 1974. Okay? Who Owns West Virginia, when Tom Miller was working for the Huntington Herald-Dispatch. Okay? The other publication was in 1884 when the state revenue did a tax study, and the copy of that is in the library of the Cultural Center. Those two publications marry each other. And that gives you a synopsis of what has been the history of the state of West Virginia. Also, what is the history of West Virginia, unfortunately, is crooked politicians. When you look at the number of people in our state government that's had to go to prison or to be fired by absconding with federal funds, it's amazing. But I'm not passing aspersions on anybody here on the panel. But I'm talking when you look back at all the history of the state of West Virginia, it's pitiful. When you fight over milk that's not been pasteurized, that is absolutely the stupidest, dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. When every medical publication that I've read, one of the first things they say is don't drink unpasteurized milk. And here we're down here carrying on with that. Enough of that. We have to look at whether we've got people that are honestly doing the job that they're supposed to be in PEIA. And if the drug companies, the hospitals, the medical companies that do equipment for medical procedures, and the medical personnel, the doctors and the nurses and others, are they honest all the time? The tragedy of it is, I can't understand why we can't ban these so-called drugs that are driving our kids and our people crazy. Can't we stop them before they get in this state and put them in jail or do something with them? I don't understand that. Cut it off. What I look for in the future is a box of Band-Aids and a bottle of aspirins, and maybe even an all-day supper. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Our next speaker is Lisa Falls.
I'm good. They covered my issues.
Thank you. All right, our next person is Ben Anderson.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight and listening to us. I'm going to be short and sweet. You've already heard about other ways to fix PEIA and all that. My concern is, in a couple ways I mentioned it, my wife is diabetic, and it's been 2 months ago, I guess. All of a sudden, she goes to get a prescription filled for her glucometer, and they won't pay for it. She has to buy it. Well, PEIA has to buy it. Why did they have to change that? It was working. You know, I think the board needs to look at how they are spending the money for the drugs, or the doctors, or whatever. That would help more than anything to get the cost down. I can't afford, I'm retired, she's retired. We don't get a raise. I don't know what we're supposed to do if it continues to raise. I know that probably a cost of living allowance is not going to happen. I mean, let's be realistic. Maybe, it's probably not going to happen either, maybe we shouldn't have to pay income tax. You know, we're retired. We don't get any more money. Why do we need to pay more income tax? We pay income tax on everything. Why can't they help us with our property tax? We pay personal property tax. You know, there has to be a way to help the retirees. And there's probably none of them are going to happen. You know, I like to be optimistic, but I'm also realistic. But I think the biggest thing is you need to look at, the board needs to look at how they are spending the money. And why are they taking drugs off that are working and cost less and making us switch to another drug when it costs more? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Kochman. Okay. She's left the building. All right, our next speaker is Kim Stover.
I don't have anything written. I'm speaking from my heart. I am a diabetic. My husband is a diabetic. That's why I'm here. I told him, I said, I'm going to come speak for both of us. There is a program the PEI has now, but it is doing away with it. It's called Face to Face with Diabetes. And if you know anything about a diabetic, you are familiar with the program. As long as you can keep your A1C in the normal range, you can stay on that program. You pay $75 deductible first, then your supplies are supplied for you at no cost to you. I myself, medication only. My husband, insulin. He goes to a doctor in Charleston who has prescribed him the insulin. He takes, the name of it slips my mind, Levemir, that's what he takes. And he's on a sliding scale with the Novolog that she mentioned. Okay, right now, that is at no cost. But when this face-to-face diabetes, which in my opinion is preventive medication, if you are willing to keep your A1C at that level, which I do, I work hard at that. I watch what I eat, I exercise, I do everything I can to keep that at that level, and he does too. Both of ours is under 6, and it's been under 6 5 years now. Both of us. Pat myself. As one of our teachers says, kiss your brain. So, I mean, I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just, because this is not just to help me or my spouse, this is to help others. If this is a preventive program and it's encouraging us as, you know, the client that needs the insurance or the person, doing away with this program, to me, it's not a good thing. I mean, okay, like, for the program, what you have to do, like I said, you have to keep that A1C. You have to meet with a, I don't know if they refer to the person as a dietitian or what, every 3 months, you have to meet. With us, it's, we have Access Health, so we have to meet with a representative at Access Health. They look at your meter, they see what your average number is, they look at all of that information, and they put that and send that to PEIA so you can continue to be on the program. It's not like you're just like, oh, you know, look at me, I've done this. You have to meet with someone, and the last time we met was in March. He shook our hand, he said, I'm sorry, he said, but I won't be seeing you anymore because the program, and this was his exact words, that's how he said. He said, unless an act of God brings it back, he said, I don't see it coming back. Well, I'm a praying woman, and I think it can be brought back. If it is something that is seen as being needful, I know there's probably a lot of people. I don't know how to tell you to fix the fund, the PEI. All I know is I need it, my husband needs it, and I think everybody else here needs it also. Thank y'all.
Okay, our next speaker is Selena Vickers.
Thank you. Hello, thank you for being here, and for those of you that aren't from this part of the state, welcome. It's beautiful, and hope you had a chance to look around at Tamarack. It's a beautiful place. I have several things that I wanted to talk about. One of them is I ran for office, and when I was canvassing in a neighborhood, I ended up talking to this lady who was a retired teacher. She wasn't on my walk list, she just happened to be on our porch when I was going by, and I stopped to talk with her. Her name's Betty Lilly. She lives in Fayette County. She's a retired teacher. And she was really concerned about the cost of prescription medications. That was her biggest concern, was prescription medications. And I'm not familiar with the retiree thing, but I stopped by her house this morning to make sure that she knew about this event. She knew about it, but she wasn't physically able to come, so I told her that I would share a little bit of her story. So she has a $700 deductible for her prescription medication. I was really shocked about that. When she had to first pay that, it took half of her income that month just to pay for some kind of medication that she needed. I mean,
as you're going through that, is she pre-65 or post?
She appears to me to be post-65, yeah. But anyway, I mean, she was absolutely distraught about this, the cost of medication. So I'm going to take the form back to her house so that she can, tell the very specifics. But that was a huge concern that she had that she wanted me to share with you. Are you all familiar with Renata Poor with West Virginia for Affordable Health Care? Okay. So me and Renata have had several conversations about this as well. She said that in her opinion, one of the biggest issues with PEIA is the cost of prescription medications. If you can figure out that would be huge. So a couple things that I wanted to mention. Some states are looking at importing drugs from Canada because, and being able to negotiate with drug companies and that sort of thing. So that might be an option, is to look at doing that. One of the things, and I don't necessarily think that this has to do with the task force, but the legislators here, is that Maryland, I think it was a year and a half ago, they passed a law that pharmacies, drug companies could not price gouge on generic prescriptions, okay, generic drugs. The pharmacy lobby, the big pharma, they fought that really, really hard, but they did not win. So that is an option, and that would help all West Virginians, not just PEIA. Another thing that I would really, really like you all to consider, and I've mentioned that every time that I come to one of these meetings, and I know that you guys are different than the board, but every time that I come and speak about PEIA, I ask and I think Ellen talked about, we pay an out-of-state company, private company, to oversee and manage, PEIA and determine what we can have and what we can't have, and they are a for-profit company. And I would like to look at, we have some infrastructure already in West Virginia through CHIP, through Medicaid, through workers' comp, that we could actually create jobs by hiring some people in West Virginia to run those claims in West Virginia through the state of West Virginia, create jobs, and save lots of money by doing that. Now, I know that in the last, 5-6 years or something like that, there's been a big push for, we don't need to have big government, we need to have small government. I don't care what size my government is, as long as it's meeting the needs of the people in the state, all right? So if that creates, a few more state employees, but we save lots of money and we help our people, I think that's a reasonable thing. It's not creating government for government's sake. It's a way to create a solution to this really difficult problem that we have. So please give very serious consideration to that. For people out here, in terms of one solution outside of PEIA is if we had universal health care or we had a public option. So we have an election coming up, and we have one senator and we have 3 congressmen or congresspeople that we can vote on. And I would encourage you, I don't care if they're Democrats, I don't care if they're independent, go to them and tell them that you want universal health care or you want to have a public option and push for that. And there are, we know that other countries have universal health care. They make health care as a right, and they're much more interested. Health care is not for profit, health care is for people. And I would like for legislators to look at that as infrastructure. When we have well-educated kids and we have a healthy workforce, we are setting ourselves up for really great things in terms of economic development. And let me see. The other thing, and I think that lady left earlier that was talking about people who were skinny have eating disorders, but but I really, really do think that we need to take seriously the suggestion. I agree with Tiga that I don't want people, my Fitbit being hooked up to PEIA and things like that. But we really do have, West Virginia is very overweight and we're very sick, and that calls all of us to pay more for health care. So we do need to do more. We need to own our health, and we need to understand that when we become healthier, we're reducing our costs and we're reducing costs for everybody. So as a society, we need to do more to be healthier. That will help everybody. The very last thing that I wanted to say is that I know not everybody here is in a union, but a lot of you are, and you all have an amazing power, 55 strong. And if you have a state legislator or you have a congressperson that you want to, or candidate that you want to support, I really encourage you to, if you can, give them $3, $5 a month. Because if they don't get money from you, they're going to get it from corporations who are going to dictate what they do. So we want them to be beholden to us through small donations. So please, if you have $5 to give it so that we have representatives that are going to represent us. Thank you very much.
Okay, those are all the folks that were on our list. Did I miss you?
No, I wasn't on there, but.
Oh, you want? Yeah. I was going to say, if anybody else wants to speak, we'll stay and let everybody have their turn.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Jean Alexander. I'm a Raleigh County school teacher for 23 years. I grew up in Rodell, which is on the Wyoming County line. And I am the mother of one 15-year-old and two 21-year-olds. Both 21-year-olds, I'm actually their guardians. One of them was the product of drugs, and she actually received Unicare. And the crazy thing is, on Unicare, even as a 21-year-old, she gets 2 pair of glasses through that a year. She gets benefits that I, as a working mom, can't even dream of, which surprises me every day. The big thing that surprises me, though, is my 15-year-old, in a 15-month period, had 2 major hip surgeries. She was injured in dance, and I thank God for PEIA and that they were able to help with that, but we went through 4 misdiagnoses. We were told her backpack was too heavy, it was the nature of dance, that it was growing pains. Turns out my 15-year-old had a splintered pelvis that calcified, and the calcifications tore off her labrums. Her first surgery required that she have 5 anchors put in her labrum. Her surgeon said it's the most that had ever been put in anyone in this state. She also had 5 millimeters of bone shaved in that one tendon tightened and the other released. She needed a DonJoy ice machine because she did not want to take narcotics because she's an athlete, she's a dancer, she's a ballerina. And she was adamant she did not want to take those. We could not get PEIA to approve it, but they would approve the narcotics. So luckily, Grandma and Grandpa stepped in and helped. We paid half and my mom and dad paid half. That was a $600 machine. Then 15 months later, the other hip had to be done. That hip required 2 anchors in her labrum, her femur to be completely reshaped, the pelvis reshaped where the femur fits in, and the post moved back in the pelvis. She has had to have, as you can imagine, months and months of physical therapy. We were fortunate she was on point for Nutcracker this year in less than 6 months. Thank God for physical therapy. But because of the fact that this very active child had to suddenly sit and do nothing, I mean literally for 2 weeks after each surgery, she was not allowed to walk, she was dead weight. But PEIA only covers physical therapy and counseling 20 sessions a year combined. And as our doctor put it, an adult would probably need counseling after 1 surgery, but try having an active 15-year-old. She had to have counseling because she wasn't dealing well with what happened to her and having to wait. And so our copay increased, and we right now are paying $75 per counseling session because we had already maxed out our physical therapy. Our physical therapy sessions went up to almost $100 a piece because we had maxed those out. And she is active. I can imagine if she wasn't active, she's about this big, anyone that knows her,
because she is a ballerina and she does work for that. And I find it amazing that something that the doctor deemed necessary for my child's physical well-being as well as her mental well-being, I was told if she was going to continue it, then we had to pay more payoff. And why those are grouped together, I have no idea. They are two completely different things. One is for mental well-being and one is for physical well-being. They are not related, although one can greatly affect the other. Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for my insurance, absolutely. But what I'm not grateful for is that narcotics were preferred over an ice machine. And we made her take one to get home, and she looked at us and said, "Don't ever do that to me again," because she didn't like it. And so we used the ice man, and even now if she gets swelling, we use the ice man because we were asked at first if her surgery was elective by PEIA because they weren't sure it was necessary because we had so many misdiagnoses to begin with. As long as we did it now, while she was young, she had a 125% recovery rate. It dropped to 86% in her 20s. How that's elective, I don't know. By her mid-20s, it would have dropped to in the 70s. And by the time she hit 30, she would have been lucky to recover 50%, is what we were told. And now, due to issues with PEIA, her surgeon is leaving the state of West Virginia. So I'm asking you all, we desperately need to find a fix. And whether it's gas is the answer, or at least part of the answer, for all of West Virginia, not for just PEIA, what happened to the lottery funds? Wasn't the lottery funds supposed to be allocated for the senior citizens and for education? My husband is a registered nurse at CAMC, and he has an associate degree. He makes more money than I do. He gets to leave it at work when he leaves. If he does have to stay late, he gets paid for it. I went into teaching because of the benefits, and right now, I don't have those benefits, not like when I first started teaching. And to me, that's a crime because I see good teachers leaving every day or stopping teaching at 20 years and going out of state and teaching for another 15 to 20 years to draw better retirement and have better benefits when they retire. And we're losing good people every day, just like her surgeon, just like I know nurses that have left the state because of issues with pay, with insurance. We lose teachers every day. My mom is a retired cook. You should see my mom's thumb. She calls it the roll thumb from pinching up the rolls. We all love the school rolls, right? And, but I look at this and I see every day and I see how West Virginia has changed. My husband and I chose to come back to West Virginia when he got out of the Air Force because this is home. And I would hate to have to leave my home because we can't find an answer. So I'm asking you, the committee, to please help us find an answer. We're not here to bash anyone. We're not here to say it's anyone's fault, but we are asking for answers. And, I'm hearing people offer answers. And these are all should be explored, And I thank you all for being here, and I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a couple of folks that want to meet somebody or talk. Somebody's coming down the aisle. We'll let you go first, and then you can be next.
All right, thank you. It's good to see everyone again, like the others. I do. For my next trick, you're probably wondering why I called you all here tonight. Leave it to Beaver. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Anyhow, I'm ready to tell you who I am now. My name is Tim Bolick. I currently am benefits administrator and field staff with the West Virginia School Service Personnel Association. I have my background's insurance, so I know a little bit something about this. I've been a licensed agent for 44 years. I'm currently a licensed agent, licensed accident, health, property, casualty. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Joe White, our Executive Director, who's at another listening location, PEI hearing tonight, and on behalf of 13,000 plus school service personnel scattered across 55 counties. Joe has asked me, and of course I've seen Speaker Carmichael, Senator Carmichael, and Mick Bates, and Ricky, and the guys, because I think this is my 5th one that I have attended. Just so you'll know, I take a set of notes, I write your names down, I take your things. I meet back with Joe because he can't be in all the places at once, but he gets feedback from this meeting, just like the one that he's at tonight, and I'll report to him tomorrow. I'll be back in the office tomorrow, and I'll report these issues. But here's what I'm hearing, I'll be brief. As an insurance man, here's what I hear. Number one, we are having changes mid-treatment. We have a treatment that's working, we're taking a medication that's working, we go to the pharmacist and all of a sudden it's changed. We need to look at that, ladies and gentlemen, that we cannot be changing what's working arbitrarily, capriciously, change the course of treatment. Going right with that is we need a better case-by-case review. It sounds like the case-by-case review, we're not sure who at PEIA is the medical resource that they use to do this. I mean, I know they all do. Blue Cross Blue Shield. I just showed the lady back there, I got a bad bum knee. Blue Cross Blue Shield would not let me have a shot in my knee until I went to physical therapy, until I did this, and then they put this. I mean, everybody's got, and Senator Carmichael mentioned this, this is not just us, and it's not just here, and it's not just PEIA. This is across the board. I'm very concerned, though, with 3 things. It's a 3-pronged dollars and cents approach that's out of pocket, and I'm particularly concerned about service personnel. Nothing against it. My daughter's a school teacher. My son-in-law is a school teacher. 2 of my 4 nieces are school teachers. But my mother worked in a school lunchroom for 30 years. So I know about that as well. And the people that can least afford it, the average school service personnel, ladies and gentlemen, makes a gross income $17,000 a year less than the average teacher makes. And again, I'm not throwing off on, God forbid, I wish my daughter made more money. She's a teacher. I'm just stating facts. Facts are facts. And we've got to look at 3 things. We've got to look, ladies and gentlemen, at premiums, deductibles, and copays. You know, as we go through the policy part of this, we've got to look at it. I'm especially concerned for our retirees. Before it was frozen, the 3-year plan that was presented to us for retirees would have resulted in retiree premiums by 2022 going up 131% from their premiums right now. A retiree on a fixed and we heard story after story tonight, we cannot afford that. We've got to do something for our retirees. Our retirees are not only going to just have $200 or $300, they're going to owe $200 or $300 a month to be retired. They're going to have to pay to be retired and have insurance. Now, having said all that, every bit of that, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolute moot point until we find a mandated, legislated, dedicated, and permanent revenue stream to be allocated for PEIA. The overall cost of PEIA is approaching $1 billion. This year, PEIA is $870 million. We have got to find some money. Now, it's all allocated. It's coming out of the... It doesn't matter to me, ladies and gentlemen, legislators. It doesn't matter, legislators, where it comes from. Take it out of the general fund. But if it's not mandated, legislated, dedicated, and permanent, it's not going to work. I understand the varying degrees of a gas severance tax. Put it all in the general fund. Put lottery money in there. Put sports betting in there. Put it all in there and let's use it to fund PEIA and other things that we need to do around the state. And the food tax, obviously now in 2020 hindsight, we see that that was a big mistake. We should have never done away with the food tax. It wasn't even popular with most of the people here. People say, why are we doing that? Why are we doing away with inventory tax? Why do we keep benefiting corporations? Why do we not make them pay for all the gas? the people of West Virginia bear the brunt of this. So a food tax, I don't think, it could be a combination of things. It could be gas service, could be putting the food tax back in, could be a penny soda, could be all those things put in, but again, unless it's mandated, legislated, dedicated, and permanent, that's what it's gotta be. So, Mick, I think you're on the finance committee. I mean, that's what we gotta do. Everything else, the diabetes thing, all these things we've talked about, everything I just said is absolutely flapping my gums until we legislate, dedicate, and mandate a permanent revenue stream. That is our issue, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
My name's Will Lester, and I'm a retiree, been a forester for 42 years. 38 years of it for the state of West Virginia. A lot of people don't see the forest for the trees. Most people don't realize that the state of West Virginia is a hardwood forest, and we have natural regeneration. Our forest was deforested in the early 1900s, but they've grown back. We are the third most forested state in the nation. Okay? To give you some idea of what forest management is, we manage the timber, water, wildlife, and recreation. Okay? That's forest management. I've heard a lot of people talk about revenue sources. And yes, we did not have enough severance tax on any of our resources. Okay? It's not true that there is a timber severance tax. Senator Carmichael can vouch for that. Is it enough? I don't know. What needs to happen in the timber industry? There needs to be, instead of all of our timber being cut and sawed here and then sent out of state to make furniture, we need a secondary wood manufacturing industry. Okay? That would be a good revenue source because we are the third most forested state. Property taxes. Managed timberland, okay? We manage for those four things that we told you. A property owner has the right to say what he wants his timber managed to. Managed timberland was an incentive, correct? To help landowners manage, okay? It does not, when you have managed timberland, you do still pay property taxes at a reduced rate. I've heard a lot about companies. To give you an example, Western Pocahontas owns a lot of property, or they did, in Rolla County. It was sold to the Forest Land Group, who's one of the largest timber owners in the state of West Virginia. You know what the Forest Land Group is? It's a timber investment management organization. They take pension funds for teachers, from other state employees, from all over the nation. And they buy timberland and they manage it through your pensions. So, facts are facts. The gentleman before me said facts are facts. Please learn your facts. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Lesser. Anybody else like to speak? Because we don't want you to leave here tonight and not feel like you've had an opportunity. Well, I want to say on behalf of myself that how much I appreciate the attendance tonight and how many folks came out. This is by far the largest group that I've been part of. And I want to thank all of you for giving your time to come this evening and give us your ideas and your thoughts, because all of us together should be able to come up with some type of solution. And we appreciate your attendance, and we appreciate you being West Virginians, that your heart is here and you want to stay here. Thank you so much. Thank you.